I'm Kaye Putnam. I'm the psychology-driven brand strategist, and my happy place, my, as they say, zone of genius is when I get to show up and I get to teach. So thank you for being here and giving me this space to share what I know and have collected over this last decade of brand and entrepreneurial experience. Welcome everyone to day 3 of the Clarity Catalyst event. Today, we're going to embark on a transformative journey, a quest, if you may. Today is all about breaking through old paradigms and embracing new ways of thinking to elevate your brand and truly make an impact. I encourage you to stay open-minded, curious, and ready to embrace change. Change is a process. We're going to talk about how to actually chip away at some of those long-held things that have been holding all of us back. We're going to start with a story to help illustrate the power of today's training. This was back in the summer of 2019. This is also the year that my family and I hiked to Everest Base Camp, which was an incredible adventure. But something really curious happened when we got back. I found myself living in this cramped hotel room in North Carolina as my family and I were searching for a new home. My husband had gotten a job offer in North Carolina and everything was in flux. It was a time of transition and upheaval. It sounds like it could be glamorous, like living in a hotel, somebody coming to clean your room and breakfast made for you in the morning, but we were eating out basically for every meal. We weren't exercising. We were living in this small hotel room with our 2 children. So getting out and exercising was just this like logistical nightmare. I could feel the impact all of this was having, not only on my body, I could see myself putting on weight, but it was impacting my business and my overall perspective. I knew something had to change. It was this like insidious downward spiral. And I realized it was time for a total transformation, both in my personal life and in my business. And because that experience of trekking to base camp was so fresh in my mind, it reminded me of how we were able to create success in that environment. So when we hiked, our Sherpas would not let us even walk at a normal pace. They insisted that our steps were slow and deliberate. And we paused and we rested and we drank tea and ate carrot cake. And they shared something with me that really blew my mind. They said that a lot of people, especially who don't hire Sherpas doing a trek like that at altitude, they don't make it. They burn out, they get sick. And if you try to move at the pace that you're used to moving at sea level, you'll burn yourself out. And even though we took so many breaks and we walked so slowly, it was almost like, it was like mind numbing at points. We covered 70 miles and reached a altitude of 17,000 feet. I apologize. I don't know off the top of my head what the meters are for that. And remembering this experience, I sat down in that hotel room in North Carolina and I designed what I now call my quantum quarter, where I would only focus on making consistent, small baby steps towards my goal. By the end of this quarter, I had my first ever record-breaking month in my business, had a massive launch. I had also lost 20 pounds that I gained during that transition period. And I felt more alive and energetic than ever. The personal transformation that I experienced during that time was such a beautiful testament to the power of having a positive mindset, setting expectations, and setting a process for change that you can control. You can control the baby steps that you make. You can control the pace that you force yourself to go. And you can force yourself not to sprint all of the time. All of those little steps compound into massive results. And I've carried that momentum even into this year. So I'm going to share some of the underlying mechanics of that quantum quarter with you today. Because growing up, I was the typical A student. I was striving for perfection in everything I did. But when I entered the world of entrepreneurship, I realized that there wasn't a syllabus or a rubric to measure my success anymore. Building a business is unpredictable, it's messy, and I struggled with this lack of structure or guidelines or just even measurement of how I was doing. So at first I sought external validation. I wanted somebody to tell me that I was doing things the right way. But eventually I had a breakthrough. I realized that in business and in branding, there's not a one size fits all approach. And my success depends on both embracing the messy nature of entrepreneurship and also deciding what success looks like for me specifically. It's different than what it looks like for you. And if I were measuring myself against what your measure of success is, I might get there and feel empty. You hear about this. It's almost like eyeball roll worthy at this point, where you hear about people that are only chasing money, for example, and they get the money. They have the incredible groundbreaking months. And then they look around and they're like, I don't like this. And it's easy for them to say, right? But just make sure that you are building the reality that you actually desire. So I began to let go of this need to be perfect, started trusting my instincts, stopped looking outside of myself all of the time for permission. And I started embracing my unapologetic self. So if you're still clinging to that idea of being the perfect A student in your business, I encourage you to let go, to embrace the beautiful, messy nature that is entrepreneurship. Trust yourself and watch as your brand comes to life in ways that you never imagined. I remember really early in my entrepreneurship days sitting at a conference and I was listening to speaker after speaker, and I felt this mixture of like awe and then self-doubt. It seemed like everybody on stage had it all figured out: the impressive accomplishments, the captivating stories, unique perspectives, proprietary process, and results in spades. And I left that event wondering if I had what it actually takes to stand out in this world. I am not the rock star. I'm not funny. I am not a lot of things that you see in some of those situations. But I had this beautiful conversation that reminded me that the life that I've lived, the steps that I've taken up till this point were so interesting to her. And even though she's like been alongside me in this story in many ways, it was still interesting to hear about the lessons and to hear about my reflections. And I'm continually reminded of this, that we all have this unique set of stories. We all have the weird string of jobs. Recognize that you have this unique set of skills, stories, and experiences that brought you right here today to this moment. And nobody else can help in exactly the same way that you can. We're going to look at some fascinating case studies in science to explore the power of mindset. And yes, there is science that backs this up. It's not just woo-woo and crystals and sparkles, which I love a healthy dose of as well. But this stuff has concrete impact and results. Mindset is this interesting thing because we may be incredibly self-aware or we may not be, depending on how much work we've done in this space. But there's some situations in our life that can point to clues at what our mindset is. One of the places is when we set goals unrelated to our business. So when you set fitness goals, or if you set like health and wellness goals, I'm kind of obsessed with like health and biohacking and trying different things and seeing how they work for me. So this may or may not apply as much to you, but think about maybe relationships or health. And how does your mindset, or how do you interact with that idea of setting goals? Do you go all in for a week or two and then peter out? Do you feel overwhelmed from the start and don't set goals at all? Do you set really unattainable goals in unattainable timeframes and then get disappointed when it doesn't happen? Or perhaps the opposite. Do you set really easy goals that hardly take any effort at all and then look back and feel disappointed with the rate of change? The way that we do anything is the way that we do everything. So we can get some really interesting clues about our own mindset, about the way that our brain works and tries to protect us or tries to help us navigate this world by looking at things outside of our business. Another place where our mindset is critical is how we adapt to change. When you have a strong, resilient, flexible mindset, it helps you adapt to new circumstances, to embrace change, and to find opportunities in growth. But if you have more of a rigid mindset, it can result in like stress overload, resistance to that change, missing opportunities that you see other people achieving, or just having difficulty adapting. And all of this is just self-reflection. There's no right or wrong in either of these. I think the key that I want to drive home in today's training is that our mindset might be what it is right now. We all have room for improvement, and improvement isn't better or worse. It's asking yourself, what's going to be more useful for me? Is it more useful for me to be positive and optimistic, or is it more useful for me to be quote unquote realistic or maybe even pessimistic? Is it more useful for me to focus on what I can control, or am I going to get wrapped up in these end results that I don't have direct control over, and so on? Another place where we can get a peek into our mindset is when we're pursuing interests or hobbies. So if you have a growth mindset that allows you to embrace new experiences, be the beginner, learn from your mistakes, and enjoy the process. And if you have more of a fixed mindset, it can cause some people to shy away from trying anything new due to a fear of failure or judgment. And again, because we understand that our mindset operates generally the same, there's exceptions to this, but generally the same in different circumstances. If you're trying to break out of your comfort zone in business, maybe you look at breaking out of your comfort zone in a different area first, a place where it feels like the stakes are lower, so that you can learn what it takes to be the beginner, to step outside of your comfort zone, to not be great at something and still do it anyway. And then the last place that we can really get some clues about our mindset is how we manage stress. Strong, resilient mindset will help people cope better, find solutions, maintain a sense of control. But if you have a overloaded mindset, it can make stress worse, and it can lead to burnout or emotional distress. Road rage is one place where we can see this really clearly, is if we're having a really hard month or a hard year, and something as small as like somebody driving slow can set us off. And when we recognize that our mindset is within our control, it can become a powerful tool for self-transformation. By shifting your perspective, you can see challenges as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, imperfections as unique qualities. And we can move from a place of limitation to one of empowerment. And by the way, if this all sounds like, yes, of course, I want a resilient mindset. Of course, I want to be adaptable to change. Of course, I want to step outside of my comfort zone. We're going to talk about how, and we're going to talk about your own unique flavor of self-sabotage in our exercise today. But before that, let's continue. One of Angela Duckworth, who is the author behind the book Grit, one of her most fascinating findings is that resilience that we can cultivate often matters more than natural talent or intelligence when it comes to achieving success. So in her research, she discovered that individuals who possess both passion and perseverance tend to outperform their peers, even if they don't have the highest IQ or innate abilities. So to illustrate this, we can consider the story of, let's say her name is Jess, a passionate entrepreneur who started a small online business selling health coaching. Jess wasn't necessarily an expert in marketing or business management, but she's deeply passionate about helping people and about her work, and had an unwavering determination to succeed. And when she started, her sales were minimal. She encountered a ton of challenges, such as learning how to build her website and how to define her services. Instead of throwing in the towel and quitting, Jess persisted. She sought out the resources to improve her skills. She attended workshops, read books, and joined online communities to learn from others' experiences. Over time, Jess's grit pays off. Her sales steadily increase, her online presence grows, and she begins to expand her offers. Her passion for helping, coupled with relentless determination, is what helps her succeed. And this story helps highlight one of Angela's key findings, which is that grit, that perseverance is an essential ingredient for success. It's not about natural intelligence. It's not about natural talent. It's about having the resilience and the tenacity to keep pushing forward. I mentioned yesterday that I am not an overnight success. My first year in business, the first maybe 2 years in business, I think I only broke even and was only bringing in not enough to live on. And of course, it's not just perseverance. I want to acknowledge this. It's not just moving forward. You also have to make sure that you are in a place of physical safety. You need to take care of your basic needs first so that you can be bold, so that you can persevere, so that you can keep going, even when the results aren't in your favor. You need to figure that piece out first. And maybe that means doing some freelance work that's in your zone of excellence, but not in your zone of genius. Maybe it means having a part-time job. Maybe you're privileged like I was, and we weren't making millions of dollars, but my husband had a steady job with the military. So he was able to support our family as I worked and grew this thing. And there's ways of creating that physical safety. And then once you have that in place, focusing on making improvements every single day and staying steadfast. Carol Dweck has also done a lot of research around mindset, and particularly the growth mindset. Growth mindset is believing that intelligence and abilities can be developed through effort and learning. And those people are more likely to achieve success than people who believe that what you're born with is what you keep. And the thing that I love about Carol Dweck's work is she talks about children. As a parent, I'm interested in raising resilient children who are capable and excited about life. And she says that what we praise in children actually influences how successful they are. So we want to praise the effort and the progress and the determination that they put into a task or a situation, not the outcome. So we're praising the effort of working hard, not the gold medal. And I think that all of us still have this like internal child in us. As we work with our own mindset, we can use that same principle. If we focus on celebrating the progress and the effort, we're going to get farther than if we're only celebrating the end result. Oprah Winfrey is also a classic example of somebody who had grit and determination. She was born into poverty in rural Mississippi to a single teenage mother. She faced a ton of hardship during childhood, including a difficult relationship with her family and abuse. And despite these challenges, she excelled academically, won a scholarship, and attended the Tennessee State University. After graduating, she began her career in broadcasting, working in radio and TV. However, she faced discrimination, sexism in this very male-oriented and male-dominated industry. She was actually fired from her first television job as a news anchor. She went on to host a low-rated morning talk show in Chicago, transformed the show into the Oprah Winfrey Show, and eventually became the highest-rated talk show in the country. And I think we all are aware of her massive success since then. And brands have also seen a lot of challenges in their road to success. One of Peloton's more notable challenges or mishaps or roadblocks that they ran into was in 2019, they released a holiday advertisement where they featured a husband giving a Peloton bike to his wife, and it got a ton of backlash for promoting negative body image and perpetrating gender stereotypes. The company's stock actually fell by 9% in that day. So to overcome this, Peloton didn't just say like, okay, sorry guys, we're going out of business. They focused on rebuilding their image and addressing the concerns of their customers. They listened to feedback, they incorporated it into future advertisements and moved forward. And they've done really well since then. When Spotify first entered the music market, they had intense competition from Apple, Pandora, really strong existing players. And the industry was struggling at the same time. It was going through this transition of moving away from CD sales. There's tons of piracy that was happening. And Spotify needed to convince both record labels and artists that its platform was a viable alternative to those illegal downloads. To achieve this, they adopted a freemium model, giving users free access. And they also have invested really heavily in exclusive partnerships and original content, securing deals with major record labels, and the customization and the personalization that we all love if you use that platform. MailChimp, believe it or not, was completely bootstrapped by the co-founders, Ben Chestnut and Dan Kurzus. And they, again, were going up against Goliaths in their industry. And they used a lot of what we talked about in the previous 2 days training. They used emotion. They have their iconic monkey, whose name is Freddie, to adopt this playful brand identity. And as the company grew, they were able to expand their offerings, include more advanced marketing automation, and so on. But they persevered through those really challenging times. So the next question is, what actually makes up a useful mindset? What is one that is going to help us achieve our goals, reach our end destination, and get to the place that we're trying to get to? I want you to think of this as like one of those hanging posters where you take what you need the most. Ask yourself which one of these strategies to shift your mindset is the one that either triggers you the most, it seems the most challenging, or it just seems the most helpful. Use your kind of like emotional gut reaction as I read through these to help decide which one you want to focus on moving forward from today. First one is to prioritize learning, because life is a never-ending classroom. I am a lifelong student. And whenever I face something new and challenging, I grab a book, I watch a tutorial, I ask an expert. And there's this kind of interesting tension. I was noticing it while I was telling the story about how I look inward. I trust my instincts. This doesn't mean that I build walls around me, but I'm just very careful about the types of people that I learn from and the types of topics that I learn. I'm looking more for like subject matter experts to help me reach a specific end result. Then I'm looking for somebody to tell me that I'm good enough or tell me that I matter, because I already know that I matter. I'm also really careful with people who tell me that I have to do things a certain way, because I've found that that's not the case. And I want to build my brand in my own way with my own unique strengths and rhythms and energy. There's that tension of still prioritizing learning, still growing, but making sure that you're being very discerning about the types of learning that you're doing. Next one, and this one was one that I absolutely used in my quantum quarter, and it's imperfect action. So you've probably heard that phrase, done is better than perfect. And it's become my mantra. Even if something's a little bit rough around the edges, even if I don't have everything perfect, I prioritize taking action because I know that that is where I'm going to learn. That's where the rubber hits the road. So where could you embrace imperfect action? Is it in writing your brand stories? Is it in posting content? Is it putting an offer out, even if you don't know all of the answers yet? Next one is to give yourself grace. And if I wouldn't say something to my best friend in the way that the voice in my head is saying it, I try to make a conscious effort to give myself more grace, to be kinder to myself. I just read last night, they did a study, and one of the most effective ways for having a happier day, they found, was literally to be more kind. Extend that same kindness to yourself. Remember that you're human. Remember that you're growing. Do not compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 20. All of the cliches, right? The other strategy I use to shift my mindset is support and community for 2 different reasons. First, in the past, I've tried to do everything by myself, but I've since realized the power of surrounding myself with like-minded people. One reason is it means that I'm choosing myself. By receiving support, you're proving to yourself and you're proving to your mind that you are worthy of being helped and that everybody needs and deserves support in many different ways, whether that's from your mentors from afar, amazing communities, and all of the other ways that we can find support in our life. And then the other way that I use support and community to support my mindset is by normalizing success and also normalizing challenges that I'm going through, especially this weird world of entrepreneurship. It can feel really lonely if nobody else in your life knows what you're going through. And if you're in a group of like-minded people that are growing brands, that are working through all of these mindset challenges, you can talk about it and it feels less lonely. Next is baby steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was my brand, neither will yours be. So celebrate all of those tiny victories, all of the steps, not just the end. Another is to adopt a sense of humor about the journey. I found this really helpful, both when things are going right and when they're going wrong. it's important to have a sense of humor about life. Life is always going to have ups and downs. And instead of stressing over every bump or detour, remind yourself that every piece is a part of your story, and every piece is shaping you into the person that you need to be to create the success that you desire. And then hashtag evidence. I keep a list of wins, big and small, as evidence that I'm capable and deserving of success. Whenever I'm feeling low, this boosts my confidence, helps me tackle new challenges head on. And then one last exercise or shift that you can adopt for your own mindset is to chase fear. I heard somebody say one time that excitement and anxiety feel really similar in your body. And you can essentially decide that when you're feeling fear or when you're feeling anxious about something that you're trying to do, you can label that as excitement. I feel the butterflies of excitement before I get on stage to talk. And the thing that I've realized is that my results will never outpace my energy. If I'm constantly running on empty, there's no way that I can show up and give my best to others. I used to think that putting myself last, burning the candle at both ends was the key to success. And I was so wrong. Now I make sure to take care of my own needs first, fill my own cup. And that includes getting enough sleep, eating well, taking a break when I need it, scheduling breaks after really intense weeks so that I can better serve and impact others. Because it's really hard to see ourselves clearly, and it's really hard to notice the ways that we self-sabotage because our brain is literally hiding it from ourselves because it thinks that it's doing us a favor. It thinks that it's keeping us safe from harm and dragons. We are going to read through 5 different profiles of common entrepreneurial self-sabotaging dragons or characters. And because it's easier to give advice or to see how other people might improve their mindset, we're going to just look for the character that we resonate the most with personally. And as I'm reading through the descriptions, get out a piece of paper and I want you to write down your initial reactions, thoughts, and feelings about the character and their actions. Notice if you see any similarities between the character and your own behaviors. Our goal is to both reflect as we're reading through all 5 of the characters, but we also want to notice which one is playing the biggest role in our life. And by separating out our own mindset and creating some psychological distance between ourselves and our behaviors through these characters, hopefully you'll be able to have some major aha moments about the ways that you're stopping yourself from being successful. And then after we get through the characters, I'm going to ask you to share which character you identify with most and share one action or like one belief that you want to commit to moving forward to replace those self-sabotaging actions. So where am I self-sabotaging? How, as I move forward, do I plan to do better? Am I going to take baby steps? Am I going to continue to collect evidence? Am I going to find humor and embrace the journey? Am I going to enlist support and community to normalize this experience that I'm having? Sarah's an ambitious entrepreneur with a passion for health and wellness. She has spent months meticulously planning her online fitness coaching business. She created a detailed business plan, mapped out her content calendar. She even designed her website. And despite having everything in place, she's still hesitating to launch her business and to get visible. She continues to revise her plans, constantly looking for ways to perfect them. And unfortunately, her quest for perfection is holding her back from taking the leap and truly getting started. In her natural habitat, perfectionist Sarah can be observed tweaking the font size and color scheme of her website for the 27th time. And as we watch from a safe distance, we can witness Sarah's uncanny ability to draft, edit, and rewrite a single Instagram caption for hours on end. Fascinatingly, Sarah has developed a ritualistic habit of reorganizing her content calendar every morning, meticulously shuffling topics and dates, believing that the perfect sequence will unlock the hidden secret. So this is Sarah, the overplanner. Next, let's meet Jake. Jake is a tech-savvy entrepreneur with an online marketing business. Jake is always on the lookout for the next big trend or tool to elevate his business. He gets excited about new ideas, starts working on them immediately, only to lose interest when another shiny object catches his attention. As a result, he has a trail of unfinished projects behind him. His constant pursuit of the next big thing prevents him from seeing any of his original plans through to completion. I definitely have a little bit of Jake in me. So behold, the rarely focused Jake in his native environment, surrounded by no less than 15 browser tabs, each containing a different marketing tool, trend, or online course. He flits from one to the other with the speed and grace of a hummingbird, leaving no digital stone unturned. We observe Jake's particular nesting behavior, his workspace strewn with half-conceived project plans, piles of paper, notes, ever-growing collection of tech gadgets he's convinced will revolutionize his business once he gets around to using them, of course. And as night falls, we witness the elusive Jake in his nocturnal routine, scrolling through his social media, subscribing to countless newsletters, each promising the secret to exponential business growth. Little does he know that the key to success lies not in the next groundbreaking trend, but in the unfinished projects patiently waiting his attention. Meet Lily. Lily is a talented graphic designer who dreams of running her own online design agency. She has a great eye for design and a loyal following on social media. However, she's constantly worried about what her friends, family, and peers will think of her work. This fear of judgment holds her back from promoting her business, sharing her designs with the world. Lily's desire for approval is stifling her growth and keeping her from reaching her full potential as an entrepreneur. So in the wild, we find Lily, the approval-seeking designer, in her natural habitat, hovering over the post button, only to retreat at the last moment, agonizing over the potential reactions of her audience. It's a delicate dance between creativity and self-doubt, one that she performs with unparalleled grace. And observe as Lily crafts yet another stunning design, her eyes sparkling with artistic genius. But alas, her masterpiece is destined for the depths of her hard drive, hidden away like a rare gem, too precious to be exposed to potential scrutiny in the outside world. As we watch Lily engage with her online audience, we see her don a mask of confidence, showering others with compliments and encouragement while secretly yearning for some of that same validation. It's a fascinating paradox. Talented designer can see beauty in everyone else's work, but struggles to recognize her own brilliance. Lily the Seeker. Next, meet Carlos. Carlos is a passionate chef who wants to share his culinary expertise through an online cooking course. He carefully crafted his course content, built an engaging website, developed a marketing plan. However, Carlos constantly second guesses his decisions, from the design of his website to the pricing of his course. His persistent self-doubt keeps him from feeling confident, proud of his creation, finds it difficult to move forward. So Carlos, the culinary doubter, every choice, every decision is weighed and measured as if it holds the key to unlocking the secret recipe to entrepreneurial success. As we observe Carlos, we notice a curious behavior. He compulsively refreshes the preview of his website, making microscopic adjustments. The never-ending quest for perfection. We notice some similarities between the perfectionist Sarah and the doubter Carlos. It shows up in some of the same way. The motivation is slightly different. And join us as we witness a rare moment in the wild. Carlos musters the courage to share his course pricing with a trusted friend. Watch closely as his face cycles through a kaleidoscope of emotions, pride, fear, uncertainty, while waiting for a response that could either validate his efforts or send him back to the drawing board. And then finally, let's meet Emma. Emma's a driven entrepreneur with an online boutique selling eco-friendly products. When it's time for a product launch or marketing campaign, Emma works tirelessly, often pulling all-nighters to get everything done. However, after each intense sprint, she's left feeling burnt out and exhausted. She withdraws from her business for weeks at a time, leaving her customers and followers wondering where she's gone. Emma's unsustainable work habits make it difficult for her to maintain consistency and growth in her business. Emma, the eco-warrior entrepreneur, a fascinating specimen who thrives in high-stakes environment of product launches and marketing campaigns. She charges full speed ahead, fueled by sheer determination and copious amounts of caffeine, completely unaware that she's hurtling towards the dreaded post-launch crash. In a curious display of feast or famine work habits, Emma oscillates between frenetic bursts of activity and periods of radio silence. The dance of extremes keeps her followers on their toes, anxiously awaiting her next move, much like wildlife enthusiasts anticipating the rare appearance of the elusive creature. As we observe Emma, we can't help but admire her passion and drive. However, one can't help wonder if she's ever considered the ancient art of, quote, balance, or the mysterious concept of pacing oneself. Your mindset is the architect of your reality. Build wisely. Love to connect on the interwebs if we have not already. As always, build your brand on truth, not trends.